Today, we are joined by Deb Anderson, who will be a speaker at our Leadership Summit this December. And Deb is a Master Certified Life and Leadership Coach. Hello there, Deb. How are you?
Hi, Diana. I'm amazing. How are you?
I am great, thank you. Lovely to have you here with us. Uh, Deb, I'm super curious. So, you used to be an Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, and now you coach leaders.
Mhm.
How did that happen? How did you end up here?
Yeah, it's such a great question. Yeah, so I spent 21 years as an officer in the Air Force. And as an officer, we kind of just get thrown into the leadership pile, if you will, right? And we're expected just to lead from the get go. And we go to leadership training, but it never really actually helped me with the granular tasks of leadership. So I had, I had bosses to learn from, I had peers to learn from, but it never really um came together for me until I started studying leadership. So I became interested in, like, okay, how do I get good at this? Like, how do I become great at leadership? And I was hungry for any source that I could find. So that was kind of my whole 21 years. I was looking for sources and trying to get better at leading people that didn't always want to be led. Am I still here? Okay, I am. Okay. Something happened to my system. Sorry about that. So what happened was, I kind of reached the end of my career. I topped out in my specialty in the area I was in, and I had a little daughter at the time, and I wanted to have another baby. So I decided to retire at 21 years, and I took that off ramp. I stayed home when my kids were little. And then I started to go stir crazy because I'm a high energy person. And I was like, okay, there's got to be more. There has to be something else. And I looked around and I was like, okay, I'm going to take this leadership learning that I was so interested in the Air Force, and I'm going to figure out how to help those leaders now. And the answer is coaching. Coaching is an emerging style of leadership. And I say, like, leader, let's be coachers, right? Because I I so believe in the coaching style of leadership, and I know that I can help leaders become great at leadership. So it was kind of like a natural transition for me.
Hmm, interesting. No, it's just like now that you explained it, it makes sense. But before, it felt like, wow, I mean, coming from this industry, then you're now coaching all leaders. But I guess, as you said, I mean, when you were faced with leadership tasks all the time, that makes you curious. That makes you interested in the subject. And yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for explaining. And so I know that you have your LeadLab where you talk with a lot of leaders who come there, and then well, why don't you tell us what you do at LeadLab?
So the history of the LeadLab is, it actually started out when I was in college. I did in the US, there's a program where you go to college for 4 years and then you get your commission in the Air Force. And that's the program I did. It's called ROTC, Reserve Officer Training Corps. And so within that 4 years at college, there was a class. It was on our schedule, and we all called it LeadLab. On the schedule, it actually said just L Lab, and it was LeadLab. That's what we called it, and that's where we went all to learn about leadership. It was kind of like an auditorium style class, and it's supposed to teach us leadership. It did and it didn't. Like, it was just one of those things back then where I learned a lot, but I needed more. And so now Lead Lab is a class for anyone who wants to become great at leadership. I combine teaching, coaching, mentoring, advising in this amazing mix to help leaders with the problems they actually face right now, today, in their work center, in their team, in their business, in their company. So I am just passionate about helping people with what they're struggling with right now. So people can join the LeadLab. It's on my website, debandersoncoaching.com. You just come in there. It's a group setting, and show up to the call, and I'll help you with whatever you have going on today.
Oh, sounds fantastic. Sounds really interesting. And so, Deb, through this Lead Lab, I'm sure you have spoken to a lot of leaders and their issues. And if you were to kind of, I know all issues are different, but if could you name maybe top three challenges that the leaders face today?
Yeah, I think confidence is something many people struggle with, not just leaders, but many leaders really struggle with confidence because people are looking at them to be the confident leader. And when you don't feel confident, it's very hard to do. And then another couple of things that I see leaders coming to me for and really struggling with is receiving feedback and giving feedback. And these are essential to leading teams, to leading people. We must be able not only to deliver feedback, but to receive it as well. And it can be tough to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Mhm.
I mean, both subjects sound really interesting, but I'm wondering, for example, in terms of feedback, what any kind of thought, I don't know, either top advice for people or maybe
Yeah.
some cases that you keep on seeing that they constantly don't get it right, and how to overcome that and how to solve the situation and get better at feedback.
Yes. Okay. So such a great question. Um, I love to talk about setting clear expectations for your people, and then making feedback a normal day in, day out conversation about those expectations. So, are we meeting the expectations? Are we exceeding the expectations? Or are we not meeting the expectations? This is day in and day out conversation. It doesn't need to be called feedback. We don't have to have a special session in an office, like closed away from all the people, to give feedback. It's a conversation. We want to normalize it and make it day in and day out. I always recommend for leaders, like if they want to give feedback, they must be able to take feedback. They must be able to receive feedback. So it can sound like, hey, so and so, what does support for you look like from me today? Like, give me some feedback. Am I supporting you? Like, how can I support you better? What obstacles are in your way for doing your job? How can I help you clear those obstacles out so you can do what you need to do today? And get that feedback, right? Because that's a leader's job, right? To enable all their people to do their jobs, right? And if we're not doing a good job at that, we need to know. We need to allow our people to tell us what we can do better, what we're not doing well, right? And then we can say, we had that expectation that you'd get that quarterly report submitted by blah, 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 right? And, it hasn't, you didn't make that deadline. So we didn't meet the expectation. How can I help here? What are you missing? What's in the way? And actually help our people with what
Mhm.
they need help with.
Yeah,
And in order to know that, we actually have to ask. We
that's
have to ask.
true. That's
Yes.
true. But let's take a situation where, for example, a person honestly hasn't been paying attention to the quarterly report. I don't know, they were doing something else. No, we don't know what it is. It could
Yeah.
be something work related. It could be even something not work related. We don't know. I mean, in such situation, I mean, how to communicate with such person?
Yes. Um, and So this actually is a great question because it brings up the micromanaging aspect that many leaders fall back on, right? So we're worried about the person submitting the quarterly report. Like, are they doing it? I don't know. Are they ready? Are they prepared? Like, do they have all the data? Like, what are they doing? Are they working on the spreadsheet? What are they doing? Like, and this is going through our brain as a leader. And we just want a warm fuzzy from the person that they're actually doing their job, right? And we don't want to micromanage them. We don't want to be sitting on their shoulder going, hey, did you get it done? Did you get it done? Did you get it done? You know, like, it's like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Right? Like, that's not helpful or useful. So I say, have the foresight to build this into the plan from the get-go. So what does that mean? If we're setting these clear expectations, hey, the expectation is that I have a draft of the quarterly report 2 weeks before it's actually due, right? And so we've set that out there, and now they miss that. Then we know, oh, okay, now we can have a conversation around this. And it's not an emergency. No one's in trouble. Like, we haven't failed yet, right? So we have time, and we can work together to accomplish the mission, if we're using a military term.
Yeah, no, but I really like that. So basically, instead of constantly worrying, as you say, about
Mhm.
whether people are doing the job, the task they've been given, to create these kind of little milestones, and then once they're missed, then it's a good opportunity to have that conversation. And if it's not, then everything is going according to plan, and you don't need to worry. Yeah, that's a great tactic. Yeah.
And we can even have those conversations before the milestone, right? Like, feedback is just a conversation. Hey, how's that quarterly report going? Tell me everything. What's going on?
Mm,
Oh, I forgot. You know what? I'm going to get right on that, boss, because I totally spaced it.
yeah.
Right? Like, so it's that conversation. Now, so I have a funny story from this morning, actually. And it's a personal example. So my daughter has some exercises that she needs to do for her spine. And she doesn't want me to ask her every day, hey, have you done your exercises? Hey, have you done your exercises? She's like, Mom, stop that. Stop doing that. I'm like, okay. So this morning I'm driving in the car and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how can I make sure that she does her exercises? And I'm like, oh wait, I know how to do this. Like, this is what I help people with day in and day out. So I said to her, how can you give me a warm fuzzy that you've done your exercises? Like, I need a warm fuzzy from you, sweet daughter. Like, how can you give that to me? Or how can we solve this problem together? And she said something brilliant. And I was like, oh. She said, Mom, just trust me. And I was like, oh yeah, I've done so much work on trust, right? Like, self-trust, like trusting in self first, and then extending trust to others. And I'm like, oh, I can do this. I can trust in my daughter. I can trust in my people that they will get the work done. And then if it comes to light, the deadline is passed and the work isn't done, then we can have that conversation. So I always recommend extending trust smartly. What does that mean? That means we don't give the keys to the Lamborghini to the 15-and-a-half-year-old with the learner's permit, right? We want to extend trust smartly. So if it's a no fail mission, like in the Air Force, we used to have no fail missions. And so if the mission failed, that meant that someone probably died. So it's a no fail mission. We do not want to fail. Like, that's where we back up and we put in some checks and balances, some feedback loops, some criteria ahead of time. So we have a long enough runway to get there, right? But if it's something that a new employee can take on, and this could build their confidence, right? Like, this could be the thing that helps lifts them up. Then let's just extend that trust and see what the performance is. See how that person rises to that trust.
Mhm.
Let them know, hey, I'm trusting in you to do this. Let's see what happens. Like,
Yeah.
I know you have the capability to do this thing. I'm trusting in you to do it. I want to set you up for success. If you need something, please ask me anything.
Yeah. And I really like how you distinguish these two situations because I mean, in the first situation, you just that would be the wrong advice. I mean, you can't do such things. You have you can't fail. I guess you know that from the military. but
Yeah.
but then there are always the other scenarios where it's actually okay to experiment and you can literally get the best out of your people in this mode. So yeah,
Yes.
that's good thinking.
Yes.
You also mentioned one of the biggest things is confidence.
Mhm.
So, how does a leader improve their confidence? I mean, I know you will be giving a full masterclass on this topic at our summit, but if in a
Yes.
nutshell, what can people do?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And yes, please come to my masterclass in the summit because it's going to be amazing, and I'm going to be there live answering questions afterwards, I believe, right? Um, yeah, so um, I believe we have to generate our own confidence. In order for us to feel confident, we generate it. And we generate it with our thinking that produces the feeling, or with our actions that then produce the evidence for our thinking and feeling. I break it all down in the masterclass, but like if I could give you a couple of quick nuggets, when we have a narrative going around in our brain that is sucking our confidence out of us, you just kind of want to stop right there. Stop the chatter in your head. Take a few deep breaths. Maybe download what's going on in your head with a pen and a piece of paper and get it all out, like dump it all out onto the paper. And then start thinking about, what would I need to be thinking up here to feel confident? And for many people, I think we can just own it. Like, hey, I'm not confident in this because of this, this, and this. Let's take a step back. Let's build this skill. Let's learn this thing. Let's figure out how we're going to attack the problem here. How can we become solution focused here? And we can build our confidence by almost radical responsibility. Like, I love like taking ownership, owning the lack of confidence, laying it out there for everyone, because guess what? Everyone else is feeling it too. And just breaking down, what would I need to feel confident here? And let's talk about that with the people, and let's see how we can solve for that.
Okay. Okay. And do you have any potentially? I think what would help here is some sort of example, maybe. Like, do you have any examples of people, either people or yourself, who struggled with confidence and then they did something and then that really helped, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Okay. One short story is coming
Huh?
to mind from my Air Force days. And honestly, I mean, many people thought I was more confident than I was. And I think it was my demeanor in some way. But I do recall like an instance where I worked some missions, right? And when we had to study rules for these missions, and we had to have a test every month. Every month we had a test on the rules. And one month, I recall this person that we were working together at the time. And he was like, you know what? I'm just going to copy and paste somebody else's answers into the test. I'm not even taking it this month. And I was like, hey, wait a minute here. Like, that test is actually for you so that you refresh yourself on the rules. And it's actually pretty easy. All the answers are in the document. You can even, search for the topic and just find the answer right away and then read it and then put it in it's really easy. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's for you, right? This test is for you. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have no idea if he's going to do this or not. right? But that was my advice to him. And I didn't know if it would be received well, right? Like a lot of times I was in a situation where I was younger and I was talking to older, and it was mostly men in the military, right? So here's this little young, sprightly major or captain or whatever at the time, right? And I'm talking to people much more experienced and much older and much more curmudgeon-y than I was, right? But he came up to me afterwards and he said, "You know what? Thank you for that advice. I actually took the test and you were right. I refreshed myself on the rules and it was a good thing." And that built my confidence because I threw it out there. I said the thing that needed to be said. Many of us don't do this. I said the thing. I had the guts and the courage to say the thing that needed to be said, and it was received and it went well. That built my confidence, just doing that, like taking that chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, take that little action because that will make you feel good about yourself once you've done it, and like that will build your confidence to then take bigger actions. Is that about it?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And here's the thing: even if it goes wrong, even if it doesn't go well, you showed up being the leader you want to be. So in that sense, it can't go wrong.
Mm, that's a good way of looking at it. So instead of allowing it to shatter your confidence, because,
Yes.
hey, I didn't succeed at this, like I
Mhm.
tried, I did my best, nothing worked out. I need to remember, say that again, say that again. What do I need to remember?
Even if it goes wrong, you showed up as the person you want to be, as the leader you want to be. And I think that's really important, especially for emerging leaders, to figure that out, to figure out that piece of it. Like, who do I want to be as a leader? Right? Like, is there an example out there that you can emulate? Is there a book that you love that you've learned from? Like, I can throw out a few authors that I love, like Radical Candor by Kim Scott. I think that's an amazing book. Anything by Simon Sinek or Brene Brown is amazing. Um, you know, I think, leader equals learner. If you want to be great at leadership, we must be a student of leadership. And if we put our learning hat on, if we put that student hat on, it's okay not to have all the answers. It's okay to show up and be like, "Hey, I don't actually know how to do this thing, but I know that I can learn how to do things because I've got my learning hat on," right? And so we take that mindset, and it's okay. Like, no one person has to have all the answers. You can't do leadership alone, right? Like, well, okay, wait, actually, you can, because I always recommend leading yourself first. So if the only person who's around is you, lead yourself first. But if we're talking teams or companies or businesses, we're surrounded by people we're supposed to be leading, right? or or maybe we have peers that we want to lead, right? Or maybe maybe we want to try and lead our boss because we see that boss struggling and we see how we could help them, right? So we just want to figure out how we want to show up. Who do we want to be here in this situation?
Yeah, I think that's great advice.
It's so easier said than done. And for everyone out there, I know that. And that's why I created the LeadLab, because none of this is easy. I always say to my students, like, if it was easy, we would call it easy ship. But we don't call it easy ship. We call it leadership.
Mm, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
And well, before we start wrapping this up, anything else you want to share with the people? For example, I noticed a lot of dots behind you, and you recently you always have dots around you.
Yeah, I love the dots. Okay, all the dots are because that's what I do. is I help leaders connect the dots for themselves. It's kind of like we have to hack what's going on up here for us so we can help others connect the dots for themselves. So like, let's say we want to motivate someone, right? Like, this is a common question I get. Like, how do I motivate the unmotivated? Well, okay, first it starts with self. How can I connect the dots to figure out how do I feel motivated myself? And once we realize, oh, okay, it's how I'm thinking about this that either motivates me or demotivates me. And I know the thoughts for me that motivate me. We can actually ask our people. We could actually just ask them, hey, what's going on here? I see that you don't really want to do this. Let's say it's scrubbing the toilet. Okay? Like, nobody wants to scrub the toilet. I get it. How can we make this task easier? Do we need the new magic wand to scrub the toilet? Or like, what if we all pitched in and everyone raced to clean the toilets and we had a contest, like who had the cleanest toilet? Like, right. Like, everyone loves a clean toilet, right? Everyone loves that, but no one wants to clean it. So how do we figure this out? How do we hack this for our team, for our facility, for our business, for our company, whatever it is, right? Like, how can we have people thinking the thoughts that create and generate the feeling of motivation for them? It starts with self and connecting your own dots first, always.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great metaphor. I love it. Yeah. So, Deb, you will be leading 2 masterclasses at the Leadership Summit. So can you tell us a bit
Yes.
more? What will people learn from you during those masterclasses and what they are?
Yes. So I will be talking about confidence and how to generate it. So I'm going to talk about exactly where confidence comes from, internal sources and external sources. I will give you 3 ways to generate confidence today for yourself right away. And then I wrap up with 6 tips to help you feel more confident. It's not easy, and I don't recommend fake it till you make it. I mean, sometimes that maybe has a small part of it, but really generating confidence is something that you can do, and you don't have to fake it. Brene Brown talks about armor that we put on before we go to work. I recommend taking that armor off and hacking self, like figuring out what it is for yourself and then going to work. Because we all talk about the work-life balance, right? And Simon Sinek talks about this as well. But like, there is no work-life balance. Life is work and work is life, right? So if we can show up as ourself, as our whole self at work, we don't need this work-life balance, because Sunday evening comes and we're actually excited to go to work and lead our people on Monday morning. And that's what I want for everyone out there.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. So that was confidence. And then, I'm sorry, decision making. So decision making is my next masterclass. My second masterclass is decision making. And there we cover the 4 types of decisions, because many of us have decisions we don't even know need to be made. And I talk about how that presents itself to you. I go through a 4-step process on actually making decisions. I talk about what happens after we make the decision. And then I wrap up with 4 tips on helping you become more decisive, because being decisive is a leadership skill that every leader needs.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, so basically, come to Deb's session to become confident and decisive. My gosh, that sounds like, that's all the leaders need. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's fantastic. I personally look forward to attending your sessions, Deb.
Okay.
And yes, so where can people connect with you outside of the summit?
Great question. So it's Deb Anderson Coaching online. So that's my website. My website is Deb Anderson Coaching. I'm sure you're going to link to it. On LinkedIn, I'm Deb Anderson Coaching on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn and connecting with people there. I also have an Instagram at Deb Anderson Coaching. So I'm trying to stay consistent here with Deb Anderson Coaching. You can always email me. My email is deb@debandersoncoaching.com. So hopefully that's enough ways. I love hearing from people. I love hearing the questions. I love helping people wherever they're at in their leadership journey. Oh, and don't forget about the LeadLab, because if you want to grow your skill stack as a leader, like I believe we stack our skills on top of each other, and we want to keep growing that stack. We're never done. I'm not done. And if I'm not done, no one's done. You won't be done, right? Like we can all learn more and learn new skills and become more comfortable with our skill stack, and know that we can grow and learn ad infinitum, like for the rest. And that's actually one of my life goals, honestly, is lifelong learning and growth, because I just thrive on it. I love it. It energizes me. It doesn't deplete me.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on that one. Totally. It's just makes you inspired, to live another day, I would say, and kind of because there
It
are a
makes
lot of
life
things you can grow.
interesting, right? We want to be interested in our life. If we're not interested in our life, then and I hear people say this, I hate my life. Like that's not what I want for you. And I would submit that that's not what anyone wants. So let's figure out how to build a life that you love to live. And when we become great at leadership, we love leadership and we have fun leading people, because it's about developing people and seeing our people grow. And there's nothing more soul satisfying than that. And it all starts with us being open to learning and growing.
Absolutely. Well, Deb, it was my pleasure to have you here with us. Um,
Yes.
and I look forward to seeing you at the summit.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for putting on this summit, Diana. I think it's going to be amazing for all the leaders out there. So if you're not in there, if you're not in the summit, get in there. It's going to be amazing.
Thank you. You'll find us at Skillsme Leadership Summit. Just Google us. You'll find it. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Deb, and we will see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.